Commander Zektar's mandibles clicked in amusement as he watched the human delegate shift uncomfortably in the oversized chair. The Galactic Coalition's War Council chamber had been designed for the towering Cathani, and even the shorter Vrex barely fit properly. But this human, this fragile, pale creature, looked like a lost child among giants. The Devourers have taken 3 more systems, Admiral Thos rumbled, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. Our losses mount daily. The Cathani hegemony has lost 30% of its fleet. The Vrex Republic fares no better. The assembled delegates, massive crustacean-like Cathani, hulking rock-bodied Vrex, and graceful energy beings called the Luminari, all turned their attention to the war displays. Red zones spread like cancer across the galactic map. What of reinforcements? Asked General Voss, her luminous form flickering with anxiety. The outer colonies are evacuating, Thos replied. Our warriors fight bravely, but the Devourers adapt too quickly. They learn our tactics, counter our strategies. We are losing this war. Ambassador Sarah Chen cleared her throat, a small, almost insignificant sound in the vast chamber. Every alien eye turned to her, and she could feel their mixture of pity and dismissal. If I may, she began, her voice steady despite being dwarfed by the others. Humanity would like to propose an alternative approach. Zektar's laugh was like grinding metal. Human, your species has barely achieved interstellar flight. Your ships are primitive, your weapons outdated. What could you possibly offer that our advanced civilizations cannot provide? Sarah stood, her 5-foot frame casting a tiny shadow. We offer ourselves. The chamber fell silent. Then came the laughter, not cruel but genuinely amused. These beings had been fighting the Devourers for 2 years. The enemy was a hive mind species that consumed everything in its path, learning and adapting from each encounter. What could one weak species do? Ambassador Chen, Admiral Thos said gently, we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm. But this is not a conflict for developing species. The Devourers would sweep through your worlds in days. Maybe, Sarah replied, but you're fighting them wrong. The laughter stopped. 3 months later, Zektar found himself on the bridge of a human vessel, a crude, boxy thing called a destroyer. Around him, human crew members worked with quiet efficiency. They were so small, so fragile. He could crush any of them with one claw. But something had changed on the front lines. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, called out Lieutenant Rodriguez. Devourer scout cluster, approximately 50 ships. Captain Marcus Webb, a grizzled human with silver hair, nodded calmly. Signal the fleet. Execute Echo 7. Zektar watched in fascination as the human ships moved, not with the rigid formations he was used to, but in seemingly chaotic patterns. Some ships accelerated while others decelerated. Some changed course entirely. What are you doing? He asked. This formation makes no sense. Captain Webb smiled, that strange human expression that could mean so many things. That's the point, Commander. Watch. The Devourer ships moved to intercept, their formation a perfect adaptive response to human movement patterns they had learned over dozens of battles. Except the humans weren't following their own patterns. The trap closed like a fist. Human ships that had seemed to be retreating suddenly reversed course. Ships that appeared damaged launched devastating attacks. The Devourers, for the first time in the war, were caught completely off guard. In the aftermath, as Devourer wreckage drifted through space, Zektar finally understood. You lost those battles on purpose, he said. Some of them, Webb admitted. We fed them false patterns, let them think they understood us. Humans are very good at being underestimated. The war turned that day, but not in the way anyone expected. It wasn't human technology that made the difference. Their ships remained inferior, their weapons less advanced. It was something far more dangerous. Human unpredictability coupled with an almost supernatural ability to endure. While Cathani warriors needed rest cycles and Vrex soldiers required meditation periods, humans just kept going. They fought for 36-hour stretches, survived on minimal rations, and somehow maintained morale even in hopeless situations. Commander Zektar watched human marines storm a Devourer hive ship with nothing but personal armor and primitive kinetic weapons. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and had no right to succeed. They won anyway. How? He asked Captain Webb later, as they watched human engineers repair battle damage with improvised solutions that shouldn't have worked. We're stubborn, Webb replied simply. Also, we're really good at carrying heavy things. It was a joke, but Zektar began to see the truth in it. Humans didn't just carry physical weight, they carried the weight of impossible expectations. While other species calculated odds and made logical decisions to retreat, humans looked at the same odds and decided to try anyway. The war's end came not with a grand battle but with exhaustion. The Devourers, faced with an enemy that refused to behave logically, that adapted faster than they could learn, and that simply would not give up, began to withdraw. In the final War Council meeting, Admiral Thoss addressed the human delegation with something approaching awe. "We called you weak," he admitted. "We were wrong." Sarah Chen, now bearing the scars of a dozen desperate battles, smiled that enigmatic human smile.
"Strength isn't about size or technology, Admiral.
Sometimes it's just about being too stubborn to know when you're beaten." Looking back, Zektar realized the galaxy had learned something profound about the small, fragile species from Earth. Humans were indeed weak. Individually, their ships were inferior, their weapons primitive, their bodies fragile. But collectively, they possessed something rarer than strength, the absolute bone-deep refusal to surrender when something mattered. They had called the humans weak, then watched them carry the entire war on their backs. In the years that followed, as the galaxy rebuilt, one phrase became common among the various species when facing impossible odds: get the humans. Because if there was one thing the universe had learned, it was that humans didn't just fight wars, they won them.